good morning, St. Maarten. What's cooking? September 18, 2023, episode 92. And when I look outside, I see the blue sky with clouds in it. And that means it's a bright, sunny Monday morning. So, what are we going to talk about today? A lot of different things that are having a very, very serious effect on our country. And we sometimes seem not to understand it or grasp the ramifications, really. So we're going to have to deal with some very difficult matters. But I believe that if you're well informed, if you are told the truth and not constantly be taken for a ride by some of our politicians, at least that way we will be able to solve the problems that this country is facing. Let me start off with a positive note. I want to congratulate the St. Maarten Lions and Leo clubs, and also the Rotary and the Rotary Act clubs. I think it was the Mid-Isle Club, I believe it was, that participated on Saturday and Sunset. I'm being corrected here. It was two of them, Mid-Isle and Sunset, that participated on Saturday morning from about 6:30 to 9 o'clock with the cleaning up of the ring road. I did a little video on Saturday to show the type of debris and the amount of garbage that we collected. But at least I want to thank the clubs, the members, for coming out and doing a wonderful coastal project. Saturday was the International Coastal Cleanup Day. So we got the volunteers together. And then I want to do a very special thank you to Mr. Omar Bobatwi of Captivate Construction and Cleaning for donating a truck from his company to help us move all the debris. And actually, I want to give a special big up to my son-in-law, Akeem, who drove the truck and helped us out from early morning till about 9:30 in the morning, moving all of this stuff in his free time. So I wanted to say thank you to all of those that made the Saturday cleanup of the ring road a possibility. The question, though, that I still have for all of us is, why can't we keep our island clean? The amount of debris that we found there did not fall out of the sky. It didn't wash up from the landfill because it was on the ring road itself. We left the road between the ring road lands open. So that road still needs cleaning. So I hope government does that road, at least cleans that piece up. There were also a lot of turtles. We saw a lot of young turtles in the pond. So there's something maybe we can, get these turtles into a location where we're sure they can survive. Because they are crossing over the ring road now looking for food. That's what was going on. I had to laugh a little bit when I saw the Prime Minister make a statement that she's upset that she was accused of tampering with the voters registry by a member of parliament in the form of deregistering people. Now, remember, we're in a politically charged arena right now. Elections are due, so everybody is looking at everything and everybody is going to say, a lot of people are going to say something. So where is it and what is it really? Because everybody got long tools right now. You say something and they're going to say it is utter nonsense, or it's this, or it's that, it's that. I even have been accused of going on radio shows and saying that my verdict wasn't worth nothing. I mean, those people that I never did nothing, if they read my first verdict, I did nothing. I was fully acquitted after 12 years. And come November 30th, same thing will happen again. The difference is this. I am not afraid to talk about what I do, but we're going to get to that part later in this show today. Because there are a lot of hypocrites walking around among us. A lot. But the Prime Minister was upset that a member of Parliament said she's messing with the voters registry. What I found a pity was that the Prime Minister reacted. Because if this was a year ago, she wouldn't have even reacted. Mind you, 6 months to a year ago, we moved 3,000 plus people off the registry. Not a peep from nobody, really. But because we got election a few months ahead of us, everybody bawling murder now. Murder, she wrote. Come on, man, people. If you don't belong on the registry, you're off. I agree with that wholeheartedly. Because we have a lot of people, and I spoke about it last week. Where do you pull the line? Because we want students to vote. Remember, last week the Prime Minister said she wants people that have a long time living in St. Maarten to vote, even though they don't have the Dutch registry, even though they don't hold a passport. But because they have lived in St. Maarten for 30 years, they should be able, for example, to vote in St. Maarten. Totally against the law. Totally against the law. But she proposed it. It was her personal opinion, not that of a Prime Minister. You see, when it is convenient, she separates the two. But Madam Prime Minister, when you speak as the Prime Minister. Like how they wrote in the newspaper. Once a civil servant, 24/7 a civil servant. You can't distinguish the difference between private and being a civil servant. Same goes for the Prime Minister. You can't distinguish when you're a Prime Minister and when you're not, once you're in public domain. So, the opinion you have is the opinion of the Prime Minister. Just like how your opinion was, St. Maarten ain't ready for gay marriages. That was your opinion as Prime Minister to Van Huffelen, not Silvera Jacobs' personal opinion. So you see, Madam Prime Minister, when you start this cry baby nonsense, I'm going to pack it up. And I'm going to expose you for the hypocrisy you carry with you when you do these type of things. And then you come talking about slander and all kind of stupidity. We're going to get to that just now too. But I find it strange. Because 6 months to a year ago, if you can recall, we were saying we're going to have 17 seats. Conveniently, there was a census held. And 3,000 plus people, because we were 61,000 plus, we became 58,000. So we stayed at 15 seats. So had you spoken about that, MP, you'd have had my 100% support. But you didn't speak about that piece. You spoke about what's happening now. Because it hit home. That's unfortunate. That, though, is unfortunate. We got to be honest and we got to look at things in one view. I am across the board. If I feel it ain't the way to go, I'll tell it to you. No hard feelings for me, eh? Nothing personal, strictly business. Politics is the people's business, not ours. It's not our rum shop we run in. This is the people's business. Another thing that caught me was the blatant disrespect to the voters. That the up-governing period, what the ENNIA up going to be doing. You're only doing that, you're not going to be re-elected. You can pretend so. And in your program, you had the governor talking on your behalf, because that's what he does, telling us what all you're going to do and pulling things out of the pipeline. But I liked when he went at the road fund. But the national health insurance is another one. And these are wishful dreams that the new government of ENNIA up hope to realize. But they won't. They won't. Because they will not be re-elected. For the simple fact that people have lost confidence in them. When you hear the part of the road fund in particular, I was happy because the road fund would mean, in accordance to the law, that monies collected for the number plate would be directed to the road fund, which cannot be touched by the government itself anymore, but that the fund will take care of all road maintenance, building of new roads, etc., etc. Naturally, in discussion with the Ministry of Vromi and government, but they're responsible. They're the ones that are going to do it, not the government anymore. I think it's a great idea. But I need the government to understand that the heavy traffic jams, like the governor said, are not because of the roads. That's not the issue there. The issue is we have too many cars on the road. But that is not being addressed. And the question is, why is it not being addressed? That, government, you need to answer. That's where we need to start looking. We cannot continue building roads. We don't have no more land to build roads. You can't build a parallel road to LB Scott anymore because you allowed people to build. So you do knock down their houses now to build after you gave them permission to build? You understand? There comes a time that we have to look for the solutions that are not in front of us, but maybe even behind us. We have to turn around and go and fix that problem so that the future is livable. Are we going to start building roads on top of roads? Because there was a design once for that, that you can build a road on top of the Bush Road, on top of the road here, Walter Nisbet Road, on top of LV Scott Road. One going in is one way, one coming out is one way. You can do anything, but we don't have the money for it. And our infrastructure just simply don't lend itself. It doesn't. It just simply doesn't. So we have to start looking at how we gonna fix that. And I missed that. I even missed the public transportation. Instead of the Minister of Tiat giving out taxi and bus licenses, go and pick up the project of changing lanes, man, and do something with it. Regulate the public transportation with districting. Not about who got a license and who ain't got a license. No. Who gonna drive to Point Blanche? Who gonna drive to Sucker Garden? Who gonna drive to Middle Region? Who gonna drive into Gebe? Because these are locations that buses don't drive. Because they're not the best paying routes. It is, for example, going to the hospital. Do you see any buses driving? No. You see accessible ventures doing it to help the people that are going to the hospital or coming from the hospital from Carrefour parking lot. They do that because we don't regulate it in our system. The bus terminal. These are the bus stops along the road. These are the things that we need to regulate, because when you have a good public transportation system, you will have less cars on the road. You will have. It's that simple. But we don't do that. We want to go build more roads. So we go initiate the road fund to build roads. That is ludicrous. That is utter nonsense. Fix what you have before you go invest in something that you know will not be the solution at the end of the day. But like you said, Madam Prime Minister, in Jesus' name you rebunk that St. Maarten is not a real place. But the way you and your government behave, St. Maarten definitely is not a real place. Because you all behave like fools. And put programs and have the governor sit down there and talk about it that you know are not true. But then again, what can I say? I hope, and I truly hope, that the St. Maarten Prosecutor's Office will look at what's happening in the ENNIA case. And I don't know if anybody has followed what's happening in Curacao, and I'll talk about it a little later. They're now telling all the commissioners that were involved in taking high stipends that they got to pay back. An ENNIA board stipend used to be about 5,000 guilders a month. Most of them here collected 25,000 a month, if not more. Because getting bonuses of $1 million or $2 million is absurd. Not even being on the board, yet being paid. Yet being paid for services by the company is theft. Some of them already gone to courts trying to justify their payments, etc. It's all nonsense. But maybe the Public Prosecutor's Office can at least tackle that problem. In Curacao, they went as far as asking for all those involved be jailed. Otherwise, corruption will show its ugly head, seeing who all were involved. I'll get to that story later. But what's going to happen in St. Maarten? Are we just going to close our eyes and say, well, it didn't happen here, it happened in Curacao, so we will not prosecute those living here? Seeing Curacao doesn't have any capacity, Maybe you can offer a helping hand, because in Maarten we sure as hell have capacity. We went in people's house with 10 rechercheurs and 2 judges of instruction. So we have capacity. So maybe we should then tackle the Maarten part, where we have about 3 people involved. What do you think? Make sense? Or we leave it alone? The chief prosecutor and the president of the courts, the common courts of Curacao, Aruba, Maarten, and the Best Islands last week Friday, during the installation of a new judge in Maarten, made serious mention that the country, Maarten and Curacao, need to accept the formal, or the draft, not formal, let me not say formal, the draft criminal procedure code that was presented about, I think about 3-4 years ago. Because when I got into Parliament, we bounced up on it. And that time it had to do with the CFAT, regulations, etc. But that we should pass that one, because if they don't pass it, it could be a problem. Now, unfortunately, Maarten is not going to pass the one that was drafted 3-4 years ago, for the mere fact that Parliament, over the past 3 years, 3.5 years, has had a review done of that law. That law is about 685 pages, and 100 and something pages were reviewed with changes. Those changes, in principle, were accepted by Parliament, because Parliament did it. Parliament discussed it. Parliament reviewed it in their Justice Committee meetings with the lawyers that made the changes. That has now been sent to the Justice Minister for her review and approval, and then to be sent on to the Council of Advice for advice. I understood Parliament also requested the Minister of Justice to have this draft reviewed by the Justice. So prosecutors and judges to that effect, to give their opinion on the law. Because at the end of the day, the changes in the draft criminal code are to ensure that there's equality of arms in justice. That not the prosecutor gets an upper hand or the criminal gets an upper hand, but that it's balanced. But what caught my attention was when the Chief Justice or the President of the courts and even the public prosecutors alluded that if the Parliament don't do it, the court's going to have to approve some regulations to ensure that the prosecutors can do their work in the right way. Otherwise, all the investigations might be deemed inadmissible. Now, when you hear that and alarm bells don't go off in your head, that means you don't understand what's happening. But an alarm bell went off in my head. Because basically, it is telling me that investigations are being carried out outside of the context of the law. That's why they can become inadmissible. They're not following the law. They're doing what they believe they need to do to fix a conviction. You heard me right. To fix a conviction. That's the concern of the president of the courts, the common courts. That if that regulation don't pass, a lot of cases might be deemed inadmissible. But sir, you should have ensured that these investigations are carried out within the law. That's the job of a judge, to ensure that the parameters of the law are respected. To come and cry foul now that if the Parliament of Maarten don't pass it, some cases might now have to be thrown out. Don't blame the Parliament for that. Blame your crooked court officers for allowing that to happen. That's a big difference there. And what I'm saying are very harsh words. But that is the reality of this, what you're saying. I can freely speak about it. But I gave my lawyer my word that I will respect justice for now. But please, sir, be careful with your words. Some of us know better. And they have a saying, know better, do better. And sir, I have a lot of respect for you. I truly have a lot of respect for you. You were the judge of instruction in my first case that held a prosecutor accountable and got her kicked off of my case because of her corruptive behavior. So you know how it works. You have seen it firsthand in my BMO case. You, sir, you saw it. So please, I agree that justice must always prevail in a country. We are not a banana republic. I will not accept that. I have a lot of faith in justice. I don't agree with some of the things they do, but I still believe in justice. And justice will eventually prevail. But we have had a period of time where the RST TBO were doing what they wanted, how they wanted. And those cases are now in jeopardy because they have no legal basis for what they did, even though they were sometimes supported by justice. That is not going to change overnight. I don't see Parliament taking back its position on the draft criminal code. I just simply don't see that happening. Which means that the code that is now by the Justice Minister is the code that hopefully the Parliament of St. Maarten will pass. And equality of arms will hopefully once again reign in justice. Let's move on. The Alzheimer's Foundation, based on research conducted by the Alzheimer's Disease International, states that about 750 people will be living with Alzheimer's in St. Maarten by the year 2050. That's about 27 years from now. A lot of people say, oh, 750, that's nothing. That's a lot. That's a real lot. Because very often when somebody has Alzheimer's, in the beginning, it's easy yet with the family. But as it goes along, it becomes a big problem. There's no cure for Alzheimer's presently. There are medications to slow it down, but there's no cure. So there are though, some things that we can do. We can start looking at facilities, just like how we did with mental health. There are things we can start doing from now. You don't have to wait till you reach 2050 with 750 people that have Alzheimer's and you're going to then say, oh God, we're going to put them. No, I'm not saying build a facility for 750 people, but I am saying that let's start seeing what we can mean for Alzheimer's. When you have people like Mr. Yuzurun and others working day and night trying to bring awareness, maybe the government can get involved in a much bigger awareness campaign. Remember, we need to see how we can prepare people for possibly getting Alzheimer's. Have your business in order, all those type of things. Look, there are a lot of things that we need to look. But what is most important is we have some time to reduce the dementia risk factors. We know what they are. So maybe it's time that some of us look at this with a different pair of glasses. All of us can get dementia. All of us can get cancer. All of us will die. But if you can prevent it by having a different lifestyle and behavior, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. For us as a community to say to the Alzheimer's Foundation, how can I assist? What can I do to mitigate the factors, the risk factors for dementia? Look them up, give them a call. I think it's a worthy cause. Diesel is up 15 cents again. This is going to hurt our fuel clause at Gebe. But you know what got me bothered? When we gonna place solar panels? Jesus Christ, man. When? We talk about grid market, that is in problems. We all understood now. Bunch of money was signed off for the Sustainable Development Goals 2030. But you can't spend it in 2029. You got to spend it now. Put solar panels on schools, government building, police station, hospitals. Have programs with homeowners. What are we doing? The answer is nothing. Trust fund, I know, is busy working on something with solar panels. But again, that's not the government. Don't fool yourself because you have nothing to say there. Trust fund is doing their thing. But we need this thing now. Seba got solar panels, Station got solar panels, Curacao got solar panels, Bonilla got solar panels, Aruba got solar panels. You know who don't have? We. And we say we real. We are not. We are not combating climate change. We speak about it from this side of our mouth, but we realize there's a big hole here and the hot air slipping out. Come on, man. Stop this nonsensical behavior. Why can't we get this done? I mean, there are companies in St. Maarten that do solar panels. Make an agreement with them. Have the trust fund get involved. We don't need to do everything with outsiders. We have people here. It was the same Prime Minister was saying, oh, we build up we own and we break them back down. Are you doing the same? You doing the same? We have companies here that do solar, but we ain't talking to them. We ain't worrying them. We working. Like I said, it is what it is, right? Last week at the closing of Parliament, there was an MP that really caught my attention. She asked, what was the actual plan for this country? The actual plan. Not the read out story. Not the wish list. But the actual plan. And the moments of silence caught many people's attention last week, Monday, at the closing of Parliament. And I must honestly say, MP Gums, congratulations. You summed it up eloquently. You didn't get into the mud with nobody, but you hit the nail on the head constantly. And sure, they're going to get upset with you because the truth hurts. We all know that. But there's nothing wrong with telling the truth. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. You know, I need to say this. Some ministers were pounding their chests at press briefings and radio programs about their integrity, not really knowing what their future holds. You all remember the story of the Last Supper? You all remember who told the Romans where our Savior was? One of his own. Remember that well. One of your own will be a downfall. And I will talk about it in a sad story later in this podcast. But I want us to believe you got to be careful when you talk. And yes, it is politics. And yes, we're going to be throwing shots at each other. And I don't mind that. I honestly have no issue with throwing shots. And when shots are thrown to me, I deal with mines. But don't confuse political shots with life shots. Don't confuse them. They're two totally different things. A political shot is a political shot. We're in an arena. Comes with a game. A life shot is a different story. When your government takes bread out of people's mouth because they don't like who they are, like how your Vromi minister did to the SG, don't come talk about integrity to me, son. Because you stood by and allowed it to happen. When you all stand up and see how the airport is destroying locals, don't talk to me about integrity when you stand by and allow it to happen. There are a lot of things that are wrong. There are a lot of things that when we talk about integrity, we got to be careful because sometimes we don't understand the word integrity. But time will tell how integral all of us are. Have I made mistakes? I've made a lot of mistakes in my life. Have I learned from them? I truly hope so. Will other people make mistakes? Yes, they will. Will you make mistakes? Oh, you surely will. Unless you stop working for the people and hide in your corner so that nobody could blame you for nothing, then you'll never make mistakes. But even then, you might make them. But remember this. You have a whole life ahead of you. And if you want to make a difference for this country, you will make mistakes, serious mistakes. But you know what? As long as you're judged fairly, there's nothing wrong with it. When you're judged by an agenda, you will lose every single time. I'm truly concerned, though, with the court case of Telem, that they lost to Mer and must now pay $3.7 million immediately. Integrity we were just talking about? Who is the shareholder? Who allowed this? Those same people that speak of integrity and say, Google me, Google me. Please, be careful when you run that mouth of yours and you don't understand the name of the game, really. Where will Telem get this money from? I know they were banking on it because they knew a year ago already in Amsterdam that they lost. But they appealed. And when they appealed, Mayor St. Maarten, the BV that's here, took them to court. They lost in first instance. They went to appeal. They lost an appeal last week. The thing is this. Where does this stop? Now, they might have the money in the bank, even though Telem has said they have been hurting financially very bad. Projects have stopped outside there. They have no money. So they're going to pay this $3.7 million now. What does this mean, though, for Telem's cash flow moving problem? Because nobody's going to give them a loan. Nobody's going to give them a loan if their equity and their books are not up to par, that they can pay back the loan. I don't know, and I'm not going to pretend that I know, but there are a few things with this whole case. What's the government's position on this? And I'm going to talk about this later in my closing remarks, because in any other country, this would have finished differently for a lot of people in government and Telem. I was a little confused with an article I read where the chamber, in an effort to combat the abuse of businesses giving services that they aren't allowed to give, they asked people to report such to the Economic Inspection Department. All registered businesses must have their assigned Chamber of Commerce and Industry number on all invoices, quotations, receipts, and letters. So when I read that, I said, okay, I understand. So I walk into a grocery shop. I buy groceries, I get a bill. There's nothing, no cookie number written. It says, thank you, the name of the business, and they move on. How do I know that they are allowed to sell groceries? Now, the normal bread, butter, and so is one thing. But then you start to see like medications. Are they allowed to sell these things? Yes or no? I don't know. I don't know what they're allowed to sell or what they're not allowed to sell. I would hope that the inspection department would have been going through all these things with the people from Chamber of Commerce. It isn't that we have 20,000 businesses. We know where the problem areas are. I think most of the people know that very often things are sold that are not allowed to be sold. Some people have a right to sell sandwiches but not liquor, depending on their license. But the community of St. Maarten doesn't know what a restaurant is, or a restaurant Abbey is, and all those things. They don't know. I think one of them you're only allowed to sell soft drinks and food. The other one you're allowed to sell soft drinks, food, and liquor. But if the people don't know what it means, who gonna call the Economic Affairs Department and tell them this one doing this or this one? I don't know how we all believe this is really going to work. But the question is, how are we really controlling this? Because I found it strange that the Chamber of Commerce would make such a call. If there's something wrong, come out and say what it is. So at least the people, when they see it, they know what to say or what to do. ENNIA Loan, is it legal or not? Do we really need it? And do we really want it? I decided to delve into this matter a little more because there are various issues that need to be addressed and our government needs to grow up and take a stance. Maarten took various liquidity loans under very specific conditions and the repayment was slated for October 2023, 10th of October 2023 I think it was. As time passed, discussions started regarding the repayment and also the interest rate which would be gotten on the capital market for the loan. An interesting point here though in this discussion is that Holland has a much better rating on the international market, the Moody rating for example, than Maarten does. Which means the risk of lending for the Netherlands is much, much smaller than that of Maarten. Even though we're in the kingdom, we're an autonomous island country, so our rating is a little different. Now, when Holland goes on the market, they get the interest of 3.1%. When Maarten goes on the market, we're looking at 5.1 or higher. Remember Holland said between 6 and 8. They brought it down now to 5.1. The problem is this. The liquidity loans were first loaned to us at 0% or whatever the market rates become. Remember, who took these loans? The Netherlands did. Who's taking the refinancing loans? The Netherlands are. Not we. Because if we are taking them, we don't need to take them through the Netherlands. If Maarten was taking its own loans on the capital market, which we need to ask the Dutch permission for in accordance to the RFT law, that kingdom consensus law, where they can say, no, I ain't giving you permission. You can only borrow it from me. What nonsense are we talking about? Our rate is 3.1. Van Huffelen could put on more dancing shoes and dance away all through the second chamber. But maybe the Maarten government needs to go to courts and ask them, can somebody please tell me what's happening? Because the issue at hand that we need to address is simple. The interest rate is the Dutch interest rate because we are lending from the Dutch. I am not lending from the capital market. Or is what Aruba said correct? The Dutch want to make money off of us on these loans. Because that's what Evelyn Cruz accused the Dutch of doing. But here we have it. Holland is lending for 3.1%. But they want me to pay 5.1 if I don't deal with ENNIA. So you're making money off of me then. You're going to punish me by making me pay you more money. Because I'm lending from you. Not lending from the capital market. I'm lending from you. So Article 38 of the Charter means not a damn thing. Y'all want to talk? This is the talk we need to start having. Because here in Maarten, a lot of people like to talk, but they don't read. They don't follow what's happening in the rest of the kingdom. But if you don't do that, sir or ma'am, you don't know what you're talking about. And our government, with their stupidity of wait and see, man, grow up, Madam Prime Minister. Nobody waiting on you and nobody don't want to see you. Either you pay or you haul your backside. That's it. That's what the Dutch tell you. So don't come about you in a wait and see mode. Because if you're in a wait and see mode, why are you down in the UN now for? Waiting and seeing. Because you don't care what happened here. Come September 30th, we got a problem. If Curacao don't take the loan now suddenly, we might lose the loan. Utter nonsense. Curacao has their agreement. St. Maarten has their agreement. Aruba has their agreement. They are not kingdom agreements. They're underlying agreements. And you can remember last time how I do that? with your underlying agreements? An underlying agreement means I don't need parliament. I'm going to do what I want. I'm going to take the loans through the country. And there's nothing that MP Rolando and his merry men can do. That's your plan. Tell them where your plans be. Because when I listen to your finance minister run the mouth on Lady Grace, that's where he's going. With an underlying agreement, you don't need parliament. You don't need parliament. Tell the country so. Tell them so. That's what you did the last time when you flip-flopped with Coho. Was it going to be a kingdom law? It was an underlying agreement. Parliament can't say nothing about that. All Parliament can do is fire you. But the agreement will stand. Continuation in government is there. You see, these are problems that if we don't understand them, then we can't speak about them. The intricacies that are happening now is why we are not real. We lie to each other. We sell out each other. And then you come and talk and cry like a little baby because there's a good gentleman ripping our ears asunder. I don't agree with a lot of things he say, But you know what? Like you said, freedom of speech, right? Everybody can say what they want in this country. Because when push comes to shove, your own members were taking the good gentleman's company, the little fake plane that I make and throw it in the garbage. Please. If you all doing it too, don't cry foul. But let's get back to ENNIA. Because ENNIA ain't finished. The Netherlands brought in a condition of 600 million we got to take between Maarten and Curacao, about 100, 120 million for us, based on the share in the central bank. Not the amount of people we have. The share in the central bank is playing a big role here now. We might end up between 120 and 150 million dollars if we don't watch out, as our share of the 600 million dollars. We go from 5.1% if we don't take it to 3.1% if we take it. And we get different loan terms, 15 years, 22 years, and 30 years. That 30 years, that's a generation. So we are going to burden a generation to come. My children are 30 years now. We're going to burden them until they're 60 with paying back loans for something that we didn't do. The country did not do ENNIA. Yes, the country is responsible for the central bank. That's why I'm happy that in Curacao there's a movement now that is asking that the commissioners that sat on the board of ENNIA when the fleecing took place, and the people in the central bank that were there when this fleecing took place, be charged, prosecuted, and jailed. That's what happening in Curacao right now. But we naturally ain't gonna do that. Because we just parade them on stage and call them heroes. But that's gonna change. Believe you me, that's gonna change, because in Curacao, nobody getting paraded on stage. They're actually being shot down off of stages right now. So again, there are a lot of things that are going to play a big case like this. Because ENNIA has become the gift of gifts. It is now giving up big people in our community to the courts for wrongdoings. Do I agree with it? I don't know. I really, really don't know this. Right now, I am confused because I don't have enough insight. The verdict is a very complicated verdict. And I myself am waiting to get some help from some people that understand the law better than I do to explain me the intricacies in this verdict. But again, we have more issues. Because remember, the courts now said Ansari is found guilty for 143 million, and they want to review the dividend payments that were made by jacking up the value of Mullet Bay. So what they did over the years, Mullet Bay went from 50 million, 80 million, to 150 million, 200 million, 250 million, 300 million, 350 million, 400 million, 450 million, 500 million. Why did they do that? As they kept jacking up the value of Mullet Bay, the dividend, the company was making more money on paper. So they were taking out the money as dividend. That's what they did. That's one of the ways they did it. Look, to take out 1.2 billion, that's a lot of money. You gotta find a lot of good ways to do this. But they did it using Mullet Bay as their primary scapegoat, using dividend. Now, what happens here now? With this, again, we are getting ourselves into serious ramifications when it comes to repaying. And I'm saying, when you look at the budget of St. Maarten and you look at the budget of Curaçao, there is no room for such a loan. That's one. Two, the CFT stated in no uncertain terms, do not give that loan. We do not recommend it. And basically we're against it. Van Hoffelen, in an eloquent way, said, I have taken your advice under review or under consideration, or I have taken note of your advice. Any which one you want to use. Bottom line is, she continuing with the loan. This loan became a problem in the Netherlands. So the Netherlands demanded, listen to the word I'm using, demanded to see the letters. The second chamber wanted to see all the CFT correspondence on this loan. And you know what? They got it. Only we can get it. We can take it off of the website of the second chamber and we can read exactly what the CFT wrote and where they had issues. You see the difference between Holland and here? Here, everything is secretive, top secret. In Holland, they discuss it and they make decisions that they believe are rational. We, on the other hand, we play hide and seek with it. And we talk about integrity and transparency and good governance and corporate governance. Big words we use. But economy, we have no clue what they really mean. But again, like I said, the RFT law clearly states that some of these things are not allowed. The RFT law was made to ensure that the countries don't overextend their financial reaches and obligations where the country cannot move forward in a normal basis. St. Maarten, at this point in time, 75% of its inhabitants live under the poverty line of 3,500 guilders. 75%. And you're going to jam us another loan for 150 million euros, dollars, and then tell me you give me another 30 years to go pay again? But that's not what the law says. You're breaking the law yourself because it's convenient. But according to me, and I might be wrong, this is a kingdom law. We can't change it without their permission. But they can't change it either without our permission. But then again, we're going to see who's boss and who's follower. We're going to see just now. In Curaçao, I'm concluding on this matter. In Curaçao, the prosecutor's office decided not to press charges against Ansari or anyone involved in the stealing of the 1.2 million guilders from a legally formed company. Normally, I would wanted to have believed that money laundering criminal organization would have come to mind instantly. But they stated they don't have the capacity. And in Curaçao right now, there's a whole to-do in Parliament about the prosecutor's capacity. Because they're saying if there is no capacity, then the country doesn't really have a justice system in place properly, and the Minister of Justice should work on capacity right away. Because the message that they need to send is there's no place for corruption in the country, even when it's one of the former governors that did it, or the former president of the courts, the common courts that did it. Even then, it's not allowed. So get your capacity, because we got to go at all of them. Those are the words of parliamentarians in Curacao right now. Hopefully, it will reach St. Maarten too. But again, it is the same Dutch that made all the ministers of the 3 autonomous countries sign along to cross-border crime fighting. I don't know of a better example than ENNIA when it comes to taking all the money out of Curacao and putting it into America. But America ain't sitting down waiting for us here in Curacao and Aruba and St. Maarten. Aruba's out of this one. They already grabbed hold of the son of MC Trump for wire fraud. They're already gone at him now. He's living in Miami, but they're gone at him. The problem is this. What is it that Ansari has over them or against them that nobody going no place? I don't think he's a diplomat. So diplomatic immunity doesn't hold water. The intermediary verdict shows that most probably Ansari will end up paying all of the money back. There's a paper trail there. It's not I think it's so, I believe it's so. No. There's a paper trail with proof showing what it was. So I think that's going to come to an end. The government of St. Maarten should not accept the loan, nor the threat of a higher interest rate if we don't take the ENNIA loan, because the whole process based on what I stated above is illegal. This whole pressure they're putting on us is an illegal move. And maybe we should challenge it. Might is right is never a good way to govern. And unfortunately now for us here in the Caribbean, the Dutch government has reached that stage. Might is right. And they're going to ram it down our throats. If Curacao rejects the loan, that should have no influence on us whatsoever, because we are not part of Curaçao's loan. Again, I still believe that we have our own self-determination and we can decide what we're going to do and what we're going to do. And this thing might have to be done a different way, because I think if I read it correctly, there was a court case, an arbitration started in London by one of the people that was accused. I think it was Mr. Abdallah. He has been, he has taken the Dutch courts, the Dutch state to courts. He's asking for 130 million in damages. He's being represented by one of the most legal sound minds that I know of the Antilles, Marta. And basically, what they're doing by the tribunal is going after the plundering of ENNIA by the shareholder Ansari and his team. They're saying that because the central bank took ENNIA under its wing and for 4.5 years didn't allow anything to happen, they lost their money. They lost a lot of money. But Mr. Andrawas went from a different angle. An angle that most of us that don't really know too many things about treaties would have never found it. But Richard Marta, that's a man of treaties. Mr. Andrawas was born in Lebanon, became an investor in Curacao, listen to the time, 2011. When was Molybdenum destroyed? 1995. So in 2011, he became an investor. At that time, he purchased shares in Parman International BV, a company registered with the Chamber of Commerce. Due to the, remember, he wasn't there when it started. He bought in shares. Due to the emergency regulations, ENNIA shareholders were unable to access their assets for over 4.5 years. And here is the kicker. According to Article 11 of the Lebanon-Netherlands Treaty, it is ultimately the Kingdom of the Netherlands that is responsible for the actions of the central bank, according to the press information released at the weekend. This is a very interesting something, because when you read this, it shows the link of our central bank and the Dutch central bank right away. It shows it. And it shows it who's ultimately responsible, even though we're an autonomous state. This is going to be a very interesting approach from this angle, and I don't know what's going to come out of it, but I'll tell you one thing. If this makes any traction, we'll have a whole different ballgame at a central bank just now again. I need to strongly advise the Parliament of St. Maarten, and by extension the government, not to take the loan and challenge the Dutch in courts if they adjust the interest rates upwards instead of keeping the 3.1% as we agreed upon earlier before the whole ENNIA saga. Like I said, this is what it is. And if government still wants to take an onderliggende regeling, so underlying regulation between the two governments, St. Maarten and the Netherlands, by excluding the parliament, then I think budget 2023 and 2024 should be packed up immediately. Let me come to one of these things that were discussed and are in the pipeline, the national health insurance. It seems to be in a problem. The national health insurance, which is to be implemented by January 1st, 2024, seems to have hit some snags. As, for example, the copay will not be able to be met by majority of the residents in this country. There are a few questions that I'm going to put out now and then I'm going to touch. What is the copay exactly in the national health insurance? Will the national health insurance be starting in January 2024? Will the ZV, the sickness percentage premiums of the SZV, go up from the present 12.5%? And how much will that become moving forward? Will the OV, the accident insurance percentage, go up based on the sectors, or will it become one fixed amount? Remember, CFT told us, and we know it ourselves, we have a structural deficit in our healthcare. And we cannot continue going on the way we are going on. If we do stay the way we are, I believe within 8 years, SFT will be bankrupt. They won't have no money in the sickness insurance fund. Because at this point in time, let me give it to you in simple arithmetic. We collect 10 guilders, but we're paying 20 guilders. So all our surpluses going to be empty in about 6 to 8 years, if I understood it correctly. Now, it means that in this new national health insurance, everybody will pay premium. So if the father working and the mother and children are at home and they're insured too, because everybody got to be insured in the national health insurance, you have to pay along now for your wife and your children. It means that you're paying more money as an employer to the government to ensure that your family is insured. That's what it means. At this point in time, it's 12.5%, and that's rough already. But that premium is going to go up because the fund cannot survive on 12.5%. Even when we pay for all our family members, it seemingly still cannot survive. So there's a proposal to raise that. This is a very unpopular law, if you like it or not. So I believe that law will not be introduced by the 1st of January 2024, but most probably by the 1st of January 2025. Minister can't afford to lose his elections because he brought in a very unpopular law. That's politics. That's just simply how it is. That the country will have to suffer one more year, that's okay if that means they can win the elections. That's what it is. Let's not fool ourselves. We are all big boys and girls. We know how it works. You have to understand that people need to be informed what this law entails. What does it mean for us? What are we getting and what are we not getting? Now, for the people that are insured through SFV, that's one thing. But for the civil servants, that's a whole different ball game. I am going to be calling and asking for information so that I can discuss it. Most probably I won't get it because they're going to tell me they're working on it. But I'm going to call and ask. I know who is working on it because this is one of the country packages. Now, you know I dissected the country packages, but I didn't find it. But as I started doing some research, I realized in the TWO program that this is being worked out by people in the Personnel Affairs Department. So I am going to start digging and digging to get some more information. I think it's important that everybody that's going to be affected by the National Health Insurance understand what it means. We are going to pay for something. Let us understand what we're paying for. Because that, nobody knows yet. All you're hearing is National Health Insurance come in, great benefits for the country. Says who? Says who? This is a problem we need to deal with. And I'm trying to figure out how we're going to get it because it ain't clear to me. So I just really would like that we can get a better information or better understanding of this National Health Insurance. The bottom line is, what does this mean for the people of this country? Can we truly afford what we're selling them? If what I understand that this will cost much more money than it presently is, how will the 75% that is already living under a poverty line in this country be able to pay for this? Because I don't believe they can. Already they're struggling with the SFV as is and the OV as is. And now we want to make it more expensive. What will this mean for our seniors? That at this point in time, they pay 10% of their pension to be medically insured. What does this mean? Because we seem not to care about our seniors. Because when you ask them to please stop taxing their pension, they grin at you because they don't know what seniority means. They don't know what being a senior means. They're just 30, 35 years old. They still got 30 years before they become pension eligible. So what are they worrying for? Make sure they get their thing done now. That's the difference. Those are the dangers in our government. If you are not going to be touched, then why worry? I believe the seniors are the backbone of this country. They made St. Maarten. They made it, and we have systematically been destroying it for the past 10, 15 years. We have. You can't blame the seniors for that. Blame the political parties that were in power. Because we have too often not done what we should have done to ensure that we would have been in a different location. But there's a saying, greed is also a form of growth. And maybe we went down that path. Maybe we just simply went down the wrong path. Because there are different ways of growth. But greed is also one of them. I never knew that, but I learned that. They explained it to me, and it is maybe sometimes nice to go on Wikipedia, Google, whichever one I just use, and type in, is greed also growth? And you'll be amazed what you can read. I think we need to give ourselves some consideration. And this segment, I try to talk about where I believe consideration can be given. And the Gebe Bills is one such consideration. And it's not my ideas. I'm not going to take credit for it. I read it on the internet, and I said, I think it's something that I can find myself in, and I am more than willing to discuss on my podcast. The government went in and said to Gebe, listen, don't do 50%, do 25%, because that can help the people and ease the burden. And while I understand that, I don't agree with it. Right now, a lot of people don't have an income because we're in the height of off-season. August, September, and mid-October. I think I'm having a little problem. Okay, I'm back on. I saw a call coming. Please don't call me because I am right now in a show, so I will not answer. But again, maybe we can sign a contract with Gebe, all the people that have outstanding bills, that they will repay Gebe within 12 to 18 months on a monthly basis an amount they owe. If you look at some people that owe $5,000 because they didn't pay for a year, and you tell them bring 25%, that's 1,250 guilders. They couldn't even pay the 500 guilders, give and take, a month. Where do you think they can find 1,250 guilders net to come and pay you? And that's 25%. While if you say, okay, let me take that 5,000 and let me divide it over 12, that make it 425 guilders, a little less. Or if I do it over 18 months, I will break it down a little better to 300 and something guilders, that they pay that besides staying current. That way, we have a chance that people will be able to breathe a little easier. Because remember, paying Gebe is one thing, but they still have to eat. They still have to feed their children, the children in school. So it is not as simple as, okay, give me 25% and we're going to sign an agreement and you got 6 months to pay me back. I understand Gebe needs money. I truly, truly understand that. And that's where the government could have made a difference by maybe, just maybe, giving Gebe a financial injection. See, if they said they're doing good, they got money, so make an injection to Gebe. Or you prefer to put the people in darkness. Which one is it exactly? Because I don't understand it anymore. I give you suggestions, not all are mine. Some I get from off the internet, from people that text me and say, but Campo, what do you think about this? But Campo, what do you think about that? And then I try to go with them. I am disappointed that we prefer to put our people in darkness than find a plausible way out to help them. Maybe we can tell Gebe, okay, listen, don't pay me concession this year and next year. And that way, we work out until the people pay you back, and then you pay me back my concession because you got back your money. There are ways we can do this. There are ways if we truly want to do this. Let me put it so. Parliament meetings and cabinet member behaviors. Last week, Friday, I believe it was, and there was a clip on it. I'll take a little freshener there. Normally, I wouldn't get into this too much, but I think what was said struck a few nerves of people and caught me even a little bit by surprise. Things are getting hot. And I understand the whole aspect of hitting serious shots. But the shots that caught my attention, because there were shots about thieving and not thieving. That was, I think, six months ago. I heard that one. If you would only stop thieving for 1 year, I think it was, the MP said. This time around, the MP came and forced some more shots about cocaine use and not paying your bills, and their house will never be searched. Again, I was kind of surprised, but I understand the frustration, because whenever the lady speaks, they criticize her and call it frivolous and all kind of things. But she said something that caught my eye. The cabinet of the Ministry of Vromi, one of the senior members there, ransacked a group of environmentalists that called to give heed that a permit was not being executed the way it should be, because they were damaging stuff. And that cabinet member went over into threatening them, etc., etc., if I understood what was being said. Now, you see, what caught my attention with that was simple. You all can remember cul-de-sac? Remember Mrs. Kanagita? Beside her, a whole chunk of the hill was cleared. And she complained on Facebook. And this good gentleman from the cabinet, he's always on Facebook, because that's his job, PR. And she complained and wrote letters and called. Not a peep. Crickets. After all was cleared up, the ministry woke up. Hallelujah! Hallelujah! Oh, yeah, they have no permit. Really? Really, preacher boy? Come on, man. And now, you all start behaving so? Remember, you're not on a list. But I don't mean saying I'm going to come at you. I hate hypocrisy. I'm going to say it again. Article 28.1 was passed over a year ago. So they had no right to be clearing up there. And the minute an alarm bell was sounded, you all should have been up there. The question is, whose land is it? Who's building? I know who it is. I know who it is. So don't fool yourself. Out of respect for the lady, I ain't going there. But the government should have stopped it, because she had no permit, which she needed to clear the lands. She had a permit to build. But your building permit clearly has an article in it that if you need other permits, you're not exempted from them because you have a building permit. So when you come out to talk, because last time you were making a bunch of noise with the heavy rains, but how you're walking so hard in the rain, you're paid to do that. That's your job. You all found it fit to go this direction. And when an MP comes out and talks about it, it makes me wonder what really happening. What's really, really happening? But again, like I said, what go up must come down. You know, the Prime Minister complained that when certain people are saying things on social media, and she went as far as reading them the Riot Act and the law. Madam Prime Minister, do me a big, big favor. Go down to the Vromi ministry and explain them in there what the law says and how they should behave and how they should do their work. Please do me that favor. Other than that, stop blabbering on TV and using the press briefing to clean up the mess that you're all doing. Because that's what's happening right now. You understand? Let me explain something, Madam Prime Minister. The good gentleman that always beat up on you in his 7-minute videos, I got a little share of it too. At least he was smart. He knew my back was broad. I had a problem when they decided to delve into the garbage bin and talk about their loopers. Most of the people don't even know what a looper means. But it would be good for you to all to find out what a looper means, because when you start addressing your personnel as loopers, as a minister, you're right. We got a problem. And the question is, how real are we? A sad, sad situation. When we look at the ENNIA verdict and we see the names of the commissioners, one that made me think very hard about what can happen when one makes a mistake was the name Jaime Saleh. We all make mistakes in life, but depending what functions you hold or have held, the world will judge you totally different. Mr. Jaime Saleh, many of the young people will not even know who the good gentleman is. But he was a judge from 1974 to 1990, 16 years. And in 1979 to 1990, he was the president of the Joint Court of Justice of the Netherlands Antilles. From 1990, for a period of 12 years until 2002, he served as the governor of the Netherlands Antilles. In 2004, he was appointed the Minister of State of the Netherlands Antilles. In 2008, Mr. Saleh won the Dutch Lawyers Association Prize. Mr. Saleh became a commissioner on the board of ENNIA for the period of 2008 to 2018 and collected a sum of money of some 2.9 million guilders, about 25,000 per month. In 2010, Mr. Saleh became the Minister of State for Curaçao, and that function he holds until today. The salary of the previous board members prior to Mr. Ansari purchasing ENNIA were about 3,500 to 5,000 guilders a month. The board stint he held from 2008 to 2018 made him become a person that broke the law, I would say. He was condemned by his own former colleagues presently sitting on the courts, and this has placed his whole career and his reputation in the trash can. There's no other way I can put it. On September 14th, 2023, the government of Curaçao informed Mr. Saleh that they will offer him the opportunity to step down as Minister of State for country Maarten before September 30th, 2023. They also told him that when he is in Holland for the period of from September 2022 to the 26th, I believe, Princess Week, that he should keep a background position because he is a lecturer at one of these conferences. But if he fails to do so, and he does not step down by the 30th of September, the government will strip him of said function. Reason for such lies in the fact that there is much commotion that so many people's pension have been brought into jeopardy while he sat on the board of the ENNIA group. I make this statement not because I'm enjoying this. I know Mr. Saleh from when I used to study in Curaçao. I have seen him a few times, but I admired him for his work that he has done. First as judge, then as governor, and then as Minister of State. There's a saying that one bad man can bring down many good people. The Dutch also said that the people in Curacao and St. Maarten should not suffer because of one bad man's decisions or whatever. And all I'm trying to say is that this good gentleman is going to have a difficult way forward in life. He gave from 1974 until 2023, 49 years of his life he gave to serving the Netherlands Antilles and country Curacao. And because of one board stint, all of that is gone. But it doesn't stop there. That's the problem. It doesn't stop there. They've also now in Curacao started a movement to prosecute him and jail him. Because if they don't jail him, it means that class justice is alive and kicking. And that corruption will be allowed depending who it is. Also, the courts have condoned him that he has to pay back 2.4 million of the 2.9 million he got, because he should have gotten about 600,000 in total for his 10-year stint instead of 3 million. And they went as far as saying a man in his position should donate the other 600,000 that he did collect while being on the board back to the pension fund. Look, I think there are two lessons to be learned here. Many of us love to pound our chest about integrity and fact this and fact that. Depending on the function you hold or have held, you realize how it works in the public. I can tell you that story. I've lived it. After 49 years of serving one's country with integrity, because he never believed he did something wrong. He believed he was being paid for the caliber of a man he was. He was not an equal to others sitting on the board. He was a former judge. He was a former president of the judge. He was a governor. So he wasn't worth 5,000, he was worth 25,000. You can see it that way too. But the courts did not. The courts didn't see it that way. The courts saw that 30,000 people might lose 80% of their pension. And he sat there and he allowed it to happen. Otherwise he should have resigned. Step down, walk away. That's what they said. So you see, all the young Turks, don't pound your chest, because what you believe might be right might turn out not to be the right way. And unfortunately, time is the only thing that will tell us what it truly is. Some of us will make mistakes, some bigger than the others. But I think what happened to Mr. Saleh should be a lesson. A lesson where big money can corrupt big people. So if some of you all already went full in your belly with the big boys, them money, like I heard on the floor of Parliament last week Friday, give it back when you still have the time. Because if you don't, you too will find yourself in a very awkward position. I'm going to touch a topic now that I hope you all can understand why I'm doing it. Who's accountable for the child's death? Lots of people send their condolences and prayers to the family of the young man that took his life some 2 weeks ago due to various reasons, bullying being one of them. As this was reported on the social media networks by people in the know, even education people spoke on social media. But who's taking the aspect of how this could have happened and who's taking responsibility? Where does the buck stop? As clearly this case was known by school authorities if I follow Facebook comments and remarks made by the people in the know. Why did we allow this to happen? And why isn't the minister yet taking responsibility for a failed educational system? Who are we going to blame, minister? The bullying kids, the teacher, the school, the system, the parents, or maybe you, the minister? Why did this child feel he had no other alternative than to take his life? Is anyone giving any attention to the kids that are now bullies, who will one day realize that they may have contributed to this young man committing suicide? How are we dealing with the kids that are bullies, that from the moment they start showing signs or acting as bullies to the point that their actions can cause such a tragedy? Likely one day it will affect them negatively. Minister, what are you doing? Are you even thinking about this? And is it in the program? It is very sad for what happened, but it's sadder that this is only a news article instead of an investigation with consequences. The minister should have tendered, in my opinion, his resignation already and not wait for people to ask him to do so. As a minister, the system failed under his watch, and he cannot deny such. I only decided to talk about this, not to open any wounds again, but to ensure something is done so we don't have more of such unnecessary loss of precious lives. To his family and friends, I once again extend my sincerest condolences. To the government and society, I need to ask if this is a priority, and will we deal with our kids that are bullies before we have another unfortunate death? Did you know? Every week I try to expose a political gimmick geared towards fooling people. The amount of things that weren't in the pipeline and that are flying out the pipeline now, and even confusing those that it should be for, like for example sport facilities, education programs, capital investments, etc. It getting better by the day. Also, unbelievable yet politically correct is the Dutch position on the ENNIA options, and believing that to give the two countries a loan to save ENNIA is the best option, as the people of the country shouldn't suffer because of one man's crime, Mr. Ansari. The story about how they cannot go after Ansari justifying wasn't truly discussed, even though it's the same second chamber that approves the money, the 25 million extra every year for the RSC TBO to come after us, our governments, our people. You see, I don't know what all this refinancing is going to look like, but I do know that just like how the Dutch government bailed out Telem for 3-4 billion, billion, when things were going wrong, why can't they now bail out ENNIA for 600 million euro? Not 4 billion, 600 million euro, and safeguard what went wrong? It can. Maybe use the central bank as the loan facilitator. Because the central bank has money. That does not pretend they don't have. They have. The last time, Curacao got a loan to bail out Hero, a bank of their making, a bank that was for them. Again, I'm saying, why is St. Maarten being burdened? And please understand me right with this. Yes, we have a lot of pensioners, and I am one of them that fights for seniors. But we need to put responsibility where responsibility is due. ENNIA was fleeced. Not St. Maarten, not Curacao. So ENNIA should be given a loan. And that CFT now finds that ENNIA doesn't really need bailing out, but more bleeding to death. That's a different story, and that's what CFT's account. I firmly believe that ENNIA should be taken care of. Another option is that the insurances for all the people in St. Maarten from ENNIA be passed on to APS as a special project with a price tag. That too can happen. And then maybe those people from ENNIA and Curacao be passed on to the Curaçaoian pension funds. That too might be an option. But there are options. And we shouldn't just throw it down at the feet of the governments. Because then you have thrown it down at the feet of the people in the country. And that's not right. That's not fair. There are solutions. We just need to be able to talk about them and negotiate them in a win-win for the country and the pensioners, instead of destroying the country with an additional loan that we know we cannot afford. The issue of the Telem mayor cannot just simply be swept under the rug, and it should be handled properly. The breaking of the contract signed in 2017, it was broken in 2019, and the lawsuit that followed cannot be just be labeled bad luck, but more appropriately bad management. All persons involved need to be reviewed on their respective roles they played. This means board, management, and government. All that were involved need to be reviewed. And do you know how we do it with ENNIA? We can do it here too. The amounts are different. The amount is totally different. But what happened might be nearly be the same. Negligence. Negligence has caused this. Again, while there was a legal battle, we need to ask what this will mean for the future of Telem's project moving forward. While the union workers lost their case in courts for their benefits during the pandemic due to the crisis, this $3.7 million is much more than that. And this too was during the pandemic. So you see, things are now starting to manifest. Telem lost the case and they got to pay this $3.7 million. After all is said and done, I think it's fair to ask or conclude the following. Is the total fiber to the home project finished for which there was a loan taken? The answer is a resounding no. How much more money is needed to finish the project? Can Telem get a new loan to finish the fiber to the home project now? I believe the answer is most probably no. What's the government's position on this matter? Nothing. Crickets, silence, arm length. They will not say nothing. When the chairman, the former chairman, questioned this, he was fired. Will employees be financially duped moving forward due to this 6.5 million guilders unnecessary loss? And lastly, what's the union stand on this matter? Let me close this piece here with a message I received from someone. Morning, MP. I know Blocky, and Blocky is one of the union representatives, sent you the article yesterday from the newspaper from Mayor Court Laws. I know you will eventually talk about it on your show. Well, you were correct. You were correct. I just questioning where the accountability to Kendall and Helma lies on this. Where the supervisory board? Where the shareholder? We all know the board and shareholders are all any supporters, so they turn a blind eye to Kendall. But when will this stop? Kendall refuses to pay us our due CLA benefits to the point where we had to take him to court. Now the COLA is due since January and nothing yet. All they can say is that the company is doing really bad financially. But with this kind of management, of course we're doing bad financially. But who will be held responsible for this $3.7 million and when? Anywhere else in the world, the CEO would have been fired. I'll leave it to that for now. This I received from somebody, and it fitted into what I was saying. So I decided to read the whole what's up. There's this saying, no? Not because you believe you're doing a lot means you're getting a lot done. And this is happening right now in our country. I want to address some utter nonsense that's happening around us too often. Why, in God's name, are child molesters given a suspended sentence while others are being locked up? Because he's on a dialysis machine and not able to carry out heavy work seems to have been the reason. But that didn't stop him of molesting the child, though. I truly have no pity for child molesters. We need to make him do the work, even if it is as light and at a location where he will not be able to molest or be a predator. In another case, another child molester who admitted to everything got another suspended sentence and community service. It nearly looks as if this is becoming the new norm. You molest a child, you get a suspended sentence and community service. I don't know what's wrong in this country, in the justice system. Child molesters are predators. You want to lock up a robber with a gun because you use a gun. But when you have a big-ass man troubling a little child, he is the weapon. And you give him a suspended sentence? If it was your child, Your Honor, would it have also been a suspended sentence? Y'all people are sick. Sorry to have to call you all that. But there's no place in the world that we should be doing this. In other countries, they stone them to death. Yet we tell them, don't do it no more, okay? Come on, man, Your Honor. Come on. This is craziness. In Holland, with 12 years, you can have consensual sex. In Maarten, that is 16. Other is called rape. Let me use the word rape. You had little children being molested. That is having sex. That is rape, sir, or madam, whoever the judge was. Since when we given suspended sentences for rape? Because rape also happens to minors. Come on, man. Something is wrong with us. Something is completely wrong with us. Then there was this other incident. Last week, Monday, I think it was. Let me see. No? I don't even know which day. Yeah, no. Today's what, the 18th? Yeah, last week, Monday. 1 day only. Special. Come and sign up for a bus or taxi license. Something that is reserved for Dutch nationals only. But Harry, we have an election coming. So non-nationals that are help drivers, please feel free to come and sign up. Now, if the non-national is a Dutch national, nothing wrong with that. But when it says non-national with residence permits and so, they are non-national. They are not Dutch. And since this was saved for Dutch nationals, either we change the law or we are planning to change the law before elections to allow this to happen. And my question is, why? Why take away bread from a bus industry and a taxi industry that has been complaining that they already are oversaturated? Why? And I know we're not going to get an answer. And if we get an answer, it's going to be one of those BS stories. Bottom line is simple. The bus and taxis have stated over and over that they are oversaturated. And they were even asking for regulations on the gypsies and all of these things. Instead of going working there, no. Instead of bringing in changing lanes to ensure that all drivers can have a route to work We don't do that. We're going to give out more bus licenses and more taxi licenses. It has been a common denominator for every election out of the TIAT ministry, just like how out of Vromi they just give out land. These are standard things. It's very unfortunate, but it is the reality. The cry baby syndrome has started to show itself among the ministers, especially by the prime, but it will not work. When an MP expresses themselves, be it positive or negative, about the government's functioning, that's their right. MPs have an oversight function. And when they call you out on your nonsense, you as minister, you as government, stop being the hypocrite you are to push it over on the civil servants. Because civil servants cannot decide. Civil servants don't say to Holland, we will wait and see. You do. Civil servants don't tell Holland there's no place in St. Maarten for gay marriages. You do. So please, Prime Minister, please stop bawling. Nobody interested. You have failed. You know that. Accept it and move on. Change is coming. Serious change is coming. And it's coming now. Now it's coming. Let me close off. I was wondering what was really happening with the Courtins this coming elections, because me hearing nothing, it seems to be a dead subject, dead topic. I don't know. I ain't hearing nothing, I ain't seeing no movement, so I want to believe Courtins going to be up again, and it's going to be the same way it was before. For 2 years, while I have not been in Parliament now for about a year and 8 months, a year and 10 months, yeah, about a year and 10 months now. And that's because of this faulty constitution that we have, the only ones in the kingdom that have it. I have been speaking about the legalization of weed, the tolerance policy for weed, and all these things. This is $1 billion, if not $1 trillion industry. And instead of us doing what needs to be done, because if you have the tolerance policy, a lot of smokers can plant their little trees in their yard, 4 trees in the yard, and they got their little weed to smoke. They ain't gonna be troubling nobody. They ain't gonna be outside in the hood looking to buy weed. But we ain't doing that. We want to keep catching them so we can mash up their careers and lock them up. Or we want to bring in Canadians with patterns to take the whole industry away from the boys on the hood. I don't understand. I truly don't understand it. And then we got all kind of studies. Everybody else doing it. The studies are there now. You don't need to do a study. None of us are qualified to do a study. We know the consequences of the use of weed. Cannabis. Set the strains. I ain't talking about no lace stuff. I ain't talking about no tablets. I ain't talking about no cocaine, crack. I'm talking about weed. For one reason or the other, we're not doing this. We're finding all kind of other things to do. But one way we can legalize it, government can make their money. The gentlemen that will be either importing it now or growing it themselves can legally have an income. This is for us, for we the St. Martiners, to become millionaires. What is wrong with we becoming millionaires? I don't understand it. But I will start talking about it more in depth now. We'll start calling out people now. I'm getting tired. I notice that campaign is on. I haven't been talking about weed for campaign alone. I've been talking about it in my podcast over and over and over. I've been talking about tax reform for the seniors over and over and over. I even noticed some people jump on a bandwagon now because seniors is the thing. Oh, they got a lot of senior votes. Let me go look for some senior votes too. I ain't looking for them. I ain't earning them. It's a big difference when you genuinely care or you care because it's elections. I have programs running where people get food every month. You don't hear me boasting about it here. But I have them. I have farmers I work with. Every month they do the little thing. You don't see me boasting about it here. But I can talk about it because I do it. I genuinely do it. Not only for elections. I've been doing it year in, year out. 33 years. I wear this pin with pride. Serve mankind. Most of you all wish mankind well. I ensure mankind can be well. There's a difference between us. A big one. But again, like I said, weed needs to be legalized. The tolerance policy could have been done a long time ago. But for whatever reason, the Minister of Justice and the Minister of VSA have found other things to do. But we're going to talk about those things as the season of giving and nears us. Because I noticed when it's election time, it's like the season of giving. And like the Prime Minister decided it's going to be during the Christmas time. I know I hear they got 4 containers of ham coming in already for some of the political parties. So you all stay tuned. When I get the information, who all bringing it in, I'm going to tell all you who you got to call, WhatsApp. I'll give all the numbers. Hit them up, Go take their ham, take the turkey, take their money. But vote them out. Vote them out. That's what you got to do. I think I want to leave you all with one thought today. Because we need to understand what's happening in our country, and we need to understand who's standing where. Transparency and accountability are big words. And in our government, those are some of the biggest issues. You don't know when they're hiding or lying about the truth. The deceit that is labeled as political maneuvering or the latest form of wait and see is just sickening. And it's only getting worse as we start the formal election campaign in the next few weeks. It's so unfortunate that we have reached this low in informing the people of this country what they will be facing in the very near future. We are not doing as we had hoped, and this government clearly will not challenge the Dutch government on anything. They will sink us before saving us. Our national health insurance and the hospital presently up shit creek. But we're boasting that it moved a little further than it was 4 years ago. Our country needs to start growing up. Remember, people, failing to plan is planning to fail. And this government has done this over and over and over. Please share my podcast and also like and subscribe to my YouTube page. Have a great week ahead. Bunks is out.